faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Good evening and welcome to the Phoenix Podcast Show with Ken Sharpe. Tonight I'm honored to have Nyunyai Machiwenyika, our guest tonight. Welcome, Nyunyai.
Thank you very much, Ken, for having me.
Thank you for joining us. This is the podcast show where we showcase people who've risen from the ashes. And I'm excited to get into your story, Nyunyai. Let's start with your name. It's not a typical Shona name, but it sounds Shona. Where did this name come from?
It is, I suppose, a typical Shona name. That's what my parents would tell me. I am Mukaranga, so these are the people from Shurugwi, Mashingo, thereabouts. My parents tell me that I got it from, it's a great-great-great-grandmother's name. But for the longest of time, I've been looking for what it means. And I've read a lot of versions. There's a colloquial version about soccer. You know, they call, in dribbling, it's a slang word for dribbling, kunyunya,
Okay.
you know. When you're going to, when you're a freshman at school, the freshmen are called manyunyu. So some would call it, some actually people actually call me a bully sometimes because you are Nyunyai, you know Nyunya. But about 6 weeks ago, I met a guy from South Africa who said back then the weavers were called Banunyunya. So I think that's the version that I'll settle for.
Okay.
I like that one. So,
The doing part.
Yeah, the doing part, a weaver. So I think my assignment in this world is to become a weaver of some sort.
To weave.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But I like the English one, New. You said a lot of people call you New.
Yes, people will struggle to remember my name, just then call me New for short, and I like it. Well, it's spelled NYU in the Shona version, but then I want to look at it as New, N-E-W. So when I'm trying to psych myself up, I say, look, it's a new season, it's a new chapter, and I then write that New with NYU short for my name.
I like that. You know, we are in a new generation.
Yes,
Africa,
it's my generation.
It's your generation.
Yes.
It's Africa's time. You know, if we look at the average age in Zimbabwe, did you know that we're 25.6 years of age? The population of Zimbabwe.
I really know. No?
62% of Zimbabwe is under 25 years of age.
Wow.
So that puts it into perspective, right? All that new generation is just about to enter into the mainstream.
Yes, I suppose, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your business. I'm going to read here. You're the founder and managing director of Spring Hub Publishing, a fast-growing publisher and Edtech startup. How did this come about, and why did you get into publishing and Edtech?
Okay, I always tell people that my business came as I didn't look for it. When I talk to people who are also just trying to get into business, I always say, look, for me, the norm of do something that you like, or do something that you're good at, or do something that you've been a part of, for me did not work. For me, I just found myself in publishing. And I proudly say that it was God. It was really, really God. Because first of all, I don't like reading. So I would not have gone to publishing, because in publishing I have to read every single textbook we produce from cover to cover, and I have to look at the cover and understand what the cover means. Who is it talking to? Is it age relatable? Is it appropriate? And then right to the back of the cover, I have to read it to the very last full stop. So I would not have gone into publishing if I was supposed to look at what do you like. So
you're not a bookworm?
No, not really. But I'm having to learn to do it because I find myself in this trade and I want to make the best of it. So God really just put it on my lap. I found myself interacting with some publishers in India. In my last assignment, well, not my last assignment, but then I was at Delta for quite a long time. And then the very last trip that I did at Delta, I went to India. And it was really just a farewell trip for me, because when the trip had already been confirmed, and then during that time I now had to resign and serve my 3 months notice and was going to start work at TPZ. So this trip happened in the very last week of my notice period. So I went there, just to have fun. I had organized a trip for the team. So I was...
You were a manager
Yes, I
Delta?
was a group imports manager.
Group
So we had
imports
identified a supplier for crowns,
Right.
metallic crowns in India. So we'd already been working with the supplier, but we'd never carried out a supplier visit. So it was like part of the get to know your supplier kind of like
Checking
trip.
them out.
Yeah, so we had already planned the trip, and I was going to go with my team members. And then I got another job, so I was serving notice. And then they said, look, you know what? You're the one who organized the trip. You're the one who knows the people that you're talking to. So you just lead the team. And so I went there just not to work. And I was very clear to the team that I was traveling with and the team that we were visiting, that, look, I'm just coming to get to know you, to see India, and I'll really be on holiday. But at that time, the Zim market had kind of like opened up after the dollar in 2009.
Okay.
So a lot of suppliers business people were trying to get into Zim, but they didn't have the confidence because they were not sure what was going on. So I knew that people were looking for agencies in Zim or somebody just to represent them for some business if they could. So I then said to the guy that I was organizing the trip with, and I said, you know what, I'm coming there, but you know I'm serving notice. If there are any people there that you think want to do business in Zim and they're looking for somebody to represent them on a part-time basis, maybe just hook me up.
Right.
So he did hook me up with, there's a guy that we met during that time, but he was into security features, holograms.
Right.
And so we came here, we tried to do that. Yeah, I tried to do it in Zim, but it was a market it was a business that didn't have much market. I think for them it works because they're a big population and they're trying to manage counterfeits. And then it was either that or working with what you call them, the people who do the checks, fidelity printers. Right. Yes, I tried to engage fidelity printers to see whether I could do something with them. So it didn't really work out. So that never worked out. But then the guy, his name was Anchor. Anchor then moved from Holistic India to MBD Publishers. So it's a publishing house. But eventually we eventually got to do something. We did some metallic labels. You know those green labels on your Zambezi and your bottles. Yes, yeah, the metallic labels. Zim didn't have that technology at that moment. I don't know if they now have, but when I left Delta, they didn't have that technology, so we had to import that. So we did that a bit. So he then moved to the publishing house, and he went there, and then he called me and he said, look, Nyunyai, I've moved jobs, and I want you to work with you. And I'm like, what is this about? And he says, publishing. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm FMCG. I understand beer, and now I was doing, beer beverages, and now I was at TPC, so it was tobacco. Jeez, right. My career from beer to tobacco. Yeah.
Talk about the syntax business.
Yeah, syntax, yeah. So, but then he said, look, I know you can do it. You know, I think you're clever, you whatnot, you understand supply chain. And that was like from 2013. And he pursued me 2013, 2014, 2016, 3 years. And he kept saying, you're the one.
He was determined. Yes,
he was determined. They did a lot of homework. They knew publishers in Zimbabwe, the big brands. And he kept saying, it is you I'm going to work with. So I didn't understand why but then he kept pushing me and he even offered me money to start up the business. He says, look, my MD says she can give you money to start the business. And I'm like, no. So that I then now have to report on KPIs and what I've done with the money. But then it then got me thinking, why are they even getting to the point of wanting to offering me money to start a business that I'm telling them I can't do? So I kind of started putting it into prayer and praying about it. But at the same time, my prayers were not really prayers of inquiry because I didn't think I wanted to do it. I wasn't ready for it until 2019. 2019, I was turning 14. I was praying. I like to pray. There was a time I really used to like to pray. Now, but I just got into my prayer closet and I was praying for something else, not really the business, because I wasn't really into it. And then I had a birthing experience.
In your closet?
A birthing. I did not know what it was at that point. I only realized it much later. But I had like a birthing experience, and I just heard my spirit telling me to push. So I'm there in my closet and I'm pushing and I'm hearing.
Like a physical birthing, like you're giving birth?
I put 4 kids and it felt like
So you know what is going on?
Yeah.
You're in labor?
I felt like I was in labor.
Okay.
So it was, and I'm in my closet, like literally in my closet, in the dark there, and I'm hearing push, and I'm pushing, and I'm thinking, what is happening in here? and I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm pushing. And I'm just doing push, Nyunyai, push, and I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm sweating and I'm screaming and I feel like I'm and then I just heard, you know, I don't know, people who have had labor know how it is when the baby comes out. And it was like, something came out. And I crawled out of my closet and I'm sweaty and I'm thinking, what happened here? And then I just heard, you've just birthed Spring Up Publishing.
Wow.
Wow, so...
With the name?
No. The name I had
Okay.
since 2016.
Okay.
So after that big pressure in 2016, I just
Right.
then registered the company, but then I just had it.
You weren't going forward. You didn't have the courage, or you didn't
I
believe.
didn't know what to do. And I'd go and I'd pray and I'd say, Lord, send me a helper. And no helper would come. And I'd say, I'm ready to do it, send me. And I'd pray and I'd say, today I really prayed. Something's going to happen. And nothing would happen until that 2019. And that was around February, I think. So I said to myself, okay, so my 40th birthday, my birthday's in March. I'm gonna intentionally try and build this thing. So in 29, in that time, and then there's a guy that I'm with even up to now. He was into publishing already, so I'd already started interacting with him somehow through a network. So I then called him up and he says, look, I'm no longer working at that publishing house. I was retrenched. So I'm at home, so I can help you set up. So he kind of like helped me set up. My husband came. My husband that time was working in South Sudan, no, in Iraq. So he came for his holidays in August and said to me, you know what, when you come, please take me, I want to go to India. I now want to meet these people and really get to see what we can do. So we traveled together with my husband. We went to India. We had first-class treatment. It was like so unreal. It was so much favor, I didn't understand it. And my husband was worried and says, you know what, they think they've got a billionaire investor. I'm like, no, they know who I am. They know I go to work. They know it is you who sponsors me. One of the guys had been to Zimbabwe just before the August trip. And I'm like, he came to our office. He knows we just there. At that point, I think there's just 4 of us in the office. It was a big empty warehouse we were renting. And I'm like, he knows exactly who we are and what we, and that I have no idea what I'm doing. So we went to that meeting and they put us into an executive suite, apparently their own Radisson Blue Noida.
Oh.
So we put in that, and my husband wouldn't even touch a bottle of water. He was like, we're going to be paying for this thing. And I'm like, I don't think so. So and then they come and said, look, Nyunyai, it's on the house. Enjoy, have fun, you know, and then the fridge was open and all those snacks. And they really gave us a first-class treatment. And what this lady then says to me, her name is Monica Malhotra. She's the managing director of MBD. And she says to me and my husband in a boardroom where we then met with her, and she says, you go back home, focus on producing content that is local and leave everything else to us.
Wow, that's incredible.
And she says, did you see our publishing team? And yes, we had. We had toured the whole...
It's a big company.
Very big. They're one of the biggest publishers in India. And we had toured a whole floor of editors and animators, and she says all of them are at your disposal. And we came back here and we just started churning out content. At that time, I think we had about 4 books. And by 2022, we had 70 titles.
7-0.
7-0.
Incredible.
And they were,
What a story.
So that's how I got into publishing. And
they print everything there?
Yeah, so we print there. So they help us with the editorial work. They've been helping us with all the editorial work for free. I don't understand that. But the print is what we've been paying for. And so, yeah, so so I've had to, so each time I didn't understand it just felt so, I don't know, just getting all the service for free. So every time we finish a title, I'll just buy a big chunk just for them to appreciate that, look, and even if I didn't have a market for it yet, I'll just bring it in just to appreciate that, look, I appreciate their help and I'm worth investing into. So
tell me about book printing. So you find a good book, a juicy book, you like it,
No.
you promote it, no?
No. We're content developers from scratch.
So you write the story?
Authors.
You
Yes.
find the author?
Yeah, so these are school textbooks.
Right.
So they just generally school textbooks, curriculum based. So we get the school curriculum, that's our Bible. So we get the school curriculum. We just ending the new curriculum, the one that ran for 7 years, 2017. Oh, let me tell you something what happened when 2017, sorry. The curriculum that just ended, it came in 2017 up to 2022. It was supposed to run for 7 years. It was the first time in a long time that our ministry had reviewed the curriculum.
Revamped.
So all this time, there was this one curriculum that had been running. So this other question that I used to ask God, that you want me to get into this, how do I even break in the market? They are household brands. They are already titles that people are using. And how do I then just come and fit into this market? Because I also didn't really understand the market at that point. And then whilst I was trying to do this, and I'm asking God these questions, but I'm also trying to move forward. And then I did some homework, went to the ministry offices with the curriculum development unit, and then somehow, I don't remember how, I then found out that, no, we've got a curriculum that has been running for a year.
So hold that thought, we'll be back for commercial break. Thank you.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
And we're back, new. Whew. So we talk about new things. So there's a new curriculum, you go to the ministry. Tell us what happens.
And then I discovered that there was a new curriculum, and I was like, oh, the Lord has leveled the playing field for me. There's a new curriculum. So it meant that I could now develop content and break into the market and almost find equal footing with the people that are already there. Unfortunately, I think I lacked a bit of wisdom at that point. I was not yet fully into business. I was still more of a corporate person. Whilst I understood that the field had been leveled for me, I was not able to capitalize on that. And so I did develop my content. I was not able to get myself a market share because I failed to capitalize on the opportunity that had been put for me. So, but then now we're getting into a new curriculum, the heritage-based curriculum. I'm sure you've read about it.
Not really, no.
Yeah, but so there's a new curriculum that is currently under development. It's supposed to start in 2025. So we are busy with that. So it's
what is it? National.
Yeah, it's national. It's
Ministry of Education.
Ministry of Education. So it's a curriculum that wants to emphasize on where we come from as a nation, the Zimbabwean, the roots, the culture. So it's a curriculum that's trying to integrate a heritage across all learning areas. So even in maths, as you're developing content as publishers and as the teachers, I think as they're also teaching, where you're able to try and integrate heritage, you know, the the way we do things or the way we used to do things, just to try and so it remains a curriculum with modern content in terms of your maths, your English, your science and technology, but it's a curriculum that where you try and bring in the tangible and intangible heritage elements into the play. So as part of the daily learning. So where you'd have cross-cutting themes like right now, and climate change is a cross-cutting theme, ICT is a cross-cutting theme.
AI?
Yeah, soon, yeah, I'm sure it's, yeah. Heritage is also now supposed to be more like a cross-cutting theme even for us. So that's what we're busy with.
So is it not a risk? I mean, you go and write a book and then they don't want to buy it from you, or they don't want to use it.
Yeah, it is, and that's what we're grappling with, trying to balance that out, especially for people like us who had been developing content and just bringing it in, and not sure where our market is yet. So that is what we're trying to do. So it's a learning curve. We're paying our school fees, like I said earlier on, as we're going on. But yes, but you know that it's a 7-year cycle. Like the heritage-based curriculum right now is supposed to run from 2025 to 2032. That's 7 years. So as a business, you now have to also now plot your graph and whatever your process is, and you develop the content, sell it out, and then taper off.
So do you print millions of books? I mean, we're talking of large number of children.
I'm praying I get to printing millions of books, because the market is there. There are about 5.7 million learners in the country. So imagine if you've got 5.7 million learners in the country, and just for modeling, you just sell one textbook to each of them a year. So that's
already 5.7 million.
5.7 million textbooks times 5 billion, 25 million textbooks can go out into the market. If each learner just gets one textbook out of the 6 titles that they now will be doing, the heritage-based curriculum now collapses some of the subjects. The new curriculum had 9 subjects at primary school level, and then some of them have been collapsed, so now it's six subjects. So those titles that we had, we're now having to collapse them and align them to the curriculum and bring them together, and yes, find ways of disposing of what we already have sitting in stock. And hopefully when we come to the end of this curriculum, we will be able to manage it a bit better.
And how does government pay you?
They don't.
So how does it be a profitable, sustainable business?
So the government, so usually when this happens, like from experience, from like the new curriculum that just recently ended, when our government gets a new curriculum in, the friends of government, the UNICEFs, the NGOs,
Okay.
they then buy those books in bulk to
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So that then becomes the biggest opportunity for publishers, where you can, if you're able to secure a tender, you can secure a tender for 500,000 textbooks, or even more. You can secure for various titles, but then when UNICEF buys or these NGOs buys, they buy in hundreds of thousands because they'll be trying to make impact. So that then becomes the biggest opportunity that you want to try and pursue. And then there's the termly purchases that happen within schools through their own school fees collections. The private schools don't really struggle with that. The government schools do struggle, but sometimes some schools will have book levy. So
Okay.
yeah.
So
it's
the
now
parents or the school could be the one buying the books.
yeah. So then that becomes your termly purchases that
Okay.
you're trying to.
And what is the cost of a book from to?
From
Minimum price, maximum price.
to the selling price.
Selling price.
Selling price, so the ECD books, which is just the workbooks, the average price is about $3 a book. And then you've go up to your grade 7 textbooks. We more into the primary school
Okay.
now. We're going to build into the secondary school now in this new heritage-based curriculum. About, for us, in Spring, I'm publishing about $12, $13.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're very competitive. We're proud to say that because we get good price out of India.
So we're talking of a $multi-$100 million business.
Yes.
Several $100 million business.
Definitely, yeah.
The industry is there.
The industry is there, especially now. We as a publishing house, we believe we've got a social contract with these learners. So we are pushing technology. We're trying to push technology, and again, for that, currently there's no proper exit. You don't see where the proper business exit is. It's more of the social contract that they're saying, look, we want to fulfill. The textbook market is where you know that, look, definitely there's going to be a purchase of these textbooks, but the monetization of the tech, we know that it's a nascent demand. It's in there. They just don't know that it's there yet. Some of them. But that's where the world is going.
So we're talking of digital books, e-books?
So what we've done, we currently the only local publisher, proudly, that has got a mobile application and interactive textbooks.
Wow, already?
Yes.
So I can download the textbook and read it on my phone?
No. So the way this application works, this application is, we've created digital content, short videos that are supposed to explain a concept better. Just to try and appeal to the 21st, these digital natives. Our learners are digital natives, so, and also just to give them a better understanding of concepts. When we started doing it, we were looking at abstract content, like your science and tech, those kind of things. But then we soon were later to learn that the world is moving from STEM, science, and to STEAM, so including the arts as well in technology.
Okay.
So we've also been trying to do it even for the humanities subjects, the indigenous subjects as well. But it's short videos that we put in a book. It's they're represented by QR codes. We've got a mobile application that you download. It's called Nitra. I'll tell you a story about that one as well. It's called Nitra. We've got an instant on that application called Nitra Zim for the Zim market. So you download the application. When you see a QR code in your book, you scan that QR code, and a short video plays on your phone. And the video is talking about that concept that you're learning about. But it's coming in as it's augmented reality. So that's the technology that we're using, where we're just trying to relate what you are learning, those concepts that seemed abstract, to real life situations, just to get better understanding of, So that is what we're doing.
So do you see a point in the future where students will no longer read print, but they'll read in Zimbabwe?
I don't even think even in Europe, putting it, I think the textbook markets will always have a place somehow. The balance might change. Blended learning is really coming up. Maybe it might then change to 20% or 10% even of the physical text and move to 80%. I'm sure depending with the country and the infrastructure. But I just think that the textbook will always have a market, and it also, so having the textbook and having tech will still also then give you options, like what we've got as a solution, as a digital solution. Sadly, it won't work in most of our rural schools because it needs to be an online solution. It's an online solution.
Right.
But the textbook itself is still enough for them to be able to learn what they need to learn and get into an exam and do well. So I think, so if you don't have infrastructure and internet connectivity, the book works. If you've got internet connectivity, you still, so I think the book will never really go away. I love holding a book, so I think.
So we're going to come back to the books.
Yeah.
I just want to go back in time now. So stepping back from where you 2021, you really knew this was going to start working, and you committed your time full time to publishing.
Yeah.
But before that, so TPZ, you were procurement manager after Delta.
Yes, I went to TPZ as a procurement manager for 10 years. And then in 2021, I asked for retrenchment. There was rumor already that there was retrenchment going on. And somehow my heart was no longer in TPZ. At that point, it had nothing to do with Spring Up Publishing. Spring Up Publishing was already running on its own. At that point, I had 12 people working. But I could see that there was a problem there. I was carrying the vision to TPZ, and people were trying to do what I wanted. But
you were doing it after hours?
Yeah, doing it after hours, and I couldn't put a lot of time into it. I'd see the outputs, and half the time I would not be happy with the output. But at that point, sometimes when I get to see it, it would be too late. And so in 2021, I went to my manager. My general manager was Ivan Todd, very nice guy. And I said so before that, I had a talk. I don't know what to call it, but I was told that my business, in prayer, not even in prayer, I don't even think I was praying, but I just know that I was told by the Lord that the business won't take off until I get there. And to me, I was like, so at first I thought, look, it's logic. People had actually said, but it will work only when you're there. But to me, it came like I was being told that it's going to be like this, Nyunyai, until you go there. And at that time, I'd suffered what I thought was a loss. I'd said to myself, look, now we've got a lot of content. We need to get people to sell our content. We had been trying to sell it ourselves, well, with the people in the team, but I thought there was not enough expertise. So I said, you know what? We're going to go out. We're going to find someone who can sell these books. We're going to pay them the correct remuneration. We're going to buy them a car, and they're going to try and push and create brand visibility and get and that market acquisition that we're looking for. So I got this young lady. She came. She was brilliant. So I'm told where she came from. But somehow when she came to me, she was not able to perform. And then within a month or two, she had an accident. The car was a write-off and whatnot. And that really was like, I was asking myself, so what am I going to do? So I was told it will be like this until you get there. I had already started planning my exit, and I was going to exit TPZ in 2022. Why? Because I had a vehicle that was coming into 5 years, and then I'd have the right to purchase it, and then that's the one thing that I was waiting for. I want to get this vehicle, then I'll go. And this is 2021, and my car is 1 more year, and the Lord says until you go, and I'm thinking 1 more year. So then there was rumor that there was a retrenchment coming on. And then, so I went to Ivan and I said, look, Ivan, if there's a retrenchment, please consider me. And he's like, no, Nyunyai, where are you going? And he knew I had this person. I'm like, I want to go there. And he says, is it growing? I told him, yeah. And he says to me, okay, what would you want? And you go, I said, just my car and my furniture, my office furniture. And he says to me, but you know that president says you can negotiate and get yourself a good package. I'm like, oh, okay. I had no idea. And then he says, yeah, but anyway, there's no, well, he was just trying to be managerial. There's no retreat, but it was coming. And so I went back to my prayer closet and I said, Lord, I've made a request. If Ivan doesn't let me go, don't hold me to ransom, please. Allow me to go. I was trying to. And I was hoping Ivan wouldn't let me go. So I was just trying to play clever there. About maybe a month and a half later, not even a month, Ivan then called me and he says, look, there's a letter for retrenchment. So I took the retrenchment, and when I tried to negotiate my package, I actually just left with my car and basically my furniture. And what's the the state required them to pay me, because when I was trying to negotiate, then the Lord reminded me.
This is not what you're here for.
You said, no, you said you only wanted your car.
Okay.
So I had to go back to the guy who was negotiating my retrenchment, and I told him, look, all that I've been asking for and all that you'd offered me, please take it off. Just strike it off.
Oh.
Just give me my car and my furniture and what the state required you to give me. And this guy, he didn't believe me. He thought I was being emotional. And I said, I'm not being emotional. And this is what needs to happen. So that's what I left with. And then I went to Spring Up Publishing. And I was there and I was like, God, what am I doing here? I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. The people who are here already know what they're doing. I just knew procurement. And I was like, what do I even procure here? And the Lord just says, sit there. So I used to go to the office in the morning and feel stupid, not knowing what to do. But that's the year I then got that application, the Nutra application launched. I got approval at rocket speed. I got approval. Nobody thought it could happen in the time it happened. I got approval within a month. I launched it within that. I got approval and launched it within that month because I had an instruction. We are launching in 1 month.
So here's a woman who listens to instructions from God. We'll be back shortly.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
A woman who listens to God's instructions. So now you're giving up this potential package that you could have been entitled to, but you're being obedient here. And God is reminding you to be obedient. But you're also giving up, you were chairman of the pension fund for TBZ?
Yes, I was. I think just a year. I'd just been a chairman for about a year. And I now know why I was a chairman, because I'm now having conversations around my business that I think I understand them because I was chairman of a pension fund, and I got to understand businesses trying to raise funds and coming to pension funds and having to give a pitch and all that. And I was just a chairman for about a year and a half, maybe. And it was a great time. I was a very aggressive chairperson, and because of the way I executed myself in that role, I then found myself now I'm also part of the Minerva Copful Fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I sit on that board, and the people that I worked with during that 1 year when I was chairperson at chair lady at TPZ. They thought I've got value that I can add even to the Minerva Copful Fund.
So it helped you. You learned a lot.
I learned a lot. I do kind of like understand, like especially like I said, for business that are trying to get help or to get to try and get create capital, raise capital from pension funds. I got to understand what you're looking for, how you vet these companies, how you look at the returns on investments and all that. So now I'm on the other side of the table. At that time, I was the one who was having to ask those questions and probe and be nasty. And now I'm the one who has to, have my pitch deck being torn apart.
So let's finish the topic of business and go deeper. But before we do that, just give us an insight. Spring Hub in 10 years' time, where will you be?
In 10 years' time, my desire is to become the lead publisher for our country. Currently, the market has a lot of publishers. The publisher that is leading this market is foreign-based, and even if you look at the history of the publishing for Zimbabwe, some publishers have left the country. But again, they were not Zim-based. The publishers that have been making a lot of content for our nation, and we've been able to reap the results of in the education sector, are foreign. 10 years from now, I'd hope that we become one of the biggest publishers for our nation, and probably also be, doing some work within the region. Because I don't see why publishers all the way from Europe and the UK and have to be the ones leading our content development and taking our wealth. No. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to where you were born.
Yeah.
What was your upbringing like? How did you find your faith?
I'm from a small mining town, Shabani. That's where Shishavani. So we just call it Shabani. But it's known as Shishavani. It was the biggest asbestos mine back then. Now, not so much. That's where I grew up in. Went to school in Shabani Primary School. My father was a headmaster. I was at a primary school at Shabani. So there was Shabani Primary School, which was like a government multiracial school. That's where I learned. My father was a headmaster at Shabani Mine Primary School. So the mine had its own primary school. And
that was for the mine workers.
That was for the mine workers, yeah. And it was a group year school, much, much bigger than Shabani Primary School. So that's where I learned. And I lived a shielded life. I always tell people my life was very shielded. In a mining town, everything was almost done for us. We lived in a miner house, big, beautiful miner house. I had no idea what renting is about. And I soon had a baptism of fire when I had to go and work in Nyunyai as a teacher and living in a one room where I had to cook and sleep in there, and I had duties. And I knew.
So you lived in Shabani until you were how old?
Until I came to Harare for university.
Wow.
So I had no idea of anything else. I came to Harare, I was in Rez for the whole 3 years. I was at the UZ, and then at the end of the 3 years, my father retired. And sadly, we had a house in Harare which he had sold and not replaced. And the mining house, he had to give it up because he was no longer headmaster at the school. And the only home that we had was the rural home. So I'm finishing university. I'm supposed to now get into the job market. And the only place I can stay is my rural home. And I'm thinking, how do I get a job? So I got to stay in Harare with some cousins for just a couple of months. Then I got a teaching job in Nyunyai. And because now I was living with other people, I didn't have much of a choice of a job. I appreciate the help, but I knew that I'm here to look for a job. So the first job that came to me was a teaching job, which I took, and I went to stay in Nyunyai. And then a couple of months later, I found myself, I stayed with relatives again for about 3 months, and then after 3 months, I had to go and live on my own, and I was renting. And I had no idea, so this was in a high density. I don't know if you know about it, but then in the high density areas where you rent, what they call duties. Mm-hmm. Tenants, the landlord might have 2 or 3 tenants at the house, and these tenants are given duties to clean the communal toilet, and then also to clean the floors. I mean the compound, just to sweep the compound. So here I am. I'm my first time renting. I'm struggling to figure out how this thing works. I've got a one room. I'm a teacher, so there wasn't much money to so that was what I could afford. A one room. I'm cooking in there. I'm sleeping in there, and I've got duties. And I really was just stripped down. My landlord would wake up and she'd mock me and say, "Madam," because I was a teacher. You haven't done it? I'm like, I've done it. And she says, is this clean? I would have swept the yard and I would have done the best I could. And to me, it looked clean. And she'd take me back to the bathroom and she'd make me re-clean the bathroom. And it was bad. I struggled. My sister, I had an elder sister, was already staying in Nyunyai. She had left home a long time ago. So she had kind of like understood this independence thing. So she then visited me one weekend to see where I lived. And then she came to my house and then she looks and I had no pot. I had one pot which I was using to boil water in the morning to bath, and I was eating at a friend's house. So there was another guy that we were working with, and a lady at the school. They were my age mates, and the guy's mother had died a couple of years back, and he stayed in Nyunyai. So when his mother died, his father then moved to Cheguta, I think. So he had the whole house. So he had a fully kitted kitchen. So after school, we'd go to his house, buy some food, we'd cook together, I'd eat, and then I'd go to my house. So my sister comes home and she finds there's no pot, and she's like, "How are you living?" And she says, "Where are you eating?" And I told her I'm eating at Jesse's house. I was like, "Nyunyai, you need to go." She gave me a strong nature. Stop being selfish, stop being spoiled. You need to grow up. Oh. This is the life that you're living. You have to live independently. And she took me to the shops. She made me buy pots. She bought mealie meal and all those things, and she said we're going to cook. And for the first time, we cooked in that house.
In that room, in the one room.
In that one room, and that became I had to grow up. I remember that lecture so much. Even right now, when with my siblings that had to live with me at some point, when they had to move out, I had to tell them, stop being spoiled, stop being. You need to be independent. This is life. You have to grow up. So that then became a transformation in my life. I'm now seeing things differently. And whilst I was at that, that's when I also then you asked me about the faith. There was a lady that I used to teach with, and she used to ask me every weekend, Friday, Chigumira. She used to call me Chigumira. That's my maiden surname. Chigumira, you must come teach on Sunday. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And I would not come. And then on Monday morning, the first thing she'd ask me is, where were you? And I lied and lied and lied until I got tired of lying. And I said to myself, you know what? Let me just go and just please this woman. So I did go.
So up until then, you had no exposure to a faith system?
No, I had. So I grew up in my family. The Chigumiras are known SDAs, Seventh-day Adventists.
Right.
So I had grown up in an SDA family. My father was not very strict that go to church, but it was known we're an SDA family. We even what we'd eat, you'd see that there's an SDA family, the clothing, everything. We never used to do these earrings. We're a big SDA family. Even today, when we meet as a family, we sing SDA songs. And then
Sabbath is Saturday for SDA?
Yes, SDA is Sabbath is Saturday. And then I went to Roman Catholic. I was at a Catholic school for 6 years.
Right.
I even asked to be a nun at some point, and my father said, no, first show me how good you are at being an SDA, then we'll allow you to be a nun. So I had a good
exposure,
Christian.
right.
Yeah. But at this time, so now I was on my own. And
You're in your 20s now?
21, 22, thereabouts. And then this lady, and I always used to tell her, unfortunately, sadly, she passed away last year. The lady who brought me to my faith. And I used to tell her that the biggest mistake I made was go with you to church that one Sunday. Because I went there and I was standing out there and I'm looking at these people and they're singing. It's a Pentecostal church. And they're singing and I'm looking at them and they're so connected and I'm like, wow.
They're on fire.
Yeah, so and that became, and I just, from that day, it just became my church. And then there was a big transformation that happened, through we used to do a lot of activities, the youths, the all-night prayers, and I was there for 2 years in the Nyunyai church until I then came to Delta. And I came to Delta fully transformed. I think the version of me that then came back to Harare and that Delta then got as an employee was a very superior version that they would not have gotten if I had not had that 2 years baptism of fire in Nyunyai. Yeah.
Powerful. So before we talk more about your faith, you like books. There's a book called Innovator's Dilemma. It's written by Harvard Business School professor who's now late, Clayton Christensen. And in his latter years, he wrote a book, How You'll Measure Your Life.
Okay.
And he talks about upbringing of children. And he says the greatest thing we can do for our children is what we don't do for them that makes them. So it's the philosophy of, if you want your children to be something, it's not what you do for them that makes them who they are. It's what you don't do for them.
What you don't do for them.
How do you relate to that? I mean, looking at your own life, what was not done for your sister coming and talking to you, giving you a tough talk, and now your own children.
What you don't do for them. Okay, so just the other day I was asking myself, I'm not pushing. I'm so much into my faith, but I'm not pushing my children to be like what I am. They just observe me. I don't force them to go to church with me, and I ask myself, am I doing right? Will they be able to find themselves in this world if I don't know about that. What you don't
Something to think about.
Yeah.
So coming back to your faith, how do you find time every day to focus on the Lord, to worship Him, to dedicate time to prayer and scripture study? What does your routine look like from morning to night?
I've recently, about 3 months back, I've gone back to what I used to do the first days. I wake up every day at 1 a.m. for prayer.
1 a.m.?
Yeah.
Wow.
I went back to it because there are things that I was not seeing working, and I was like, no, what happened, And I said to myself, what formula worked for me? So I used to, for the greatest of time, I used to fast every single Thursday of the year, No matter what happens, at the beginning of the year, even before I was married, I'd have a notebook, write my prayer points for the year, and I'd fast every single Thursday of the year.
That's a dry fast. Food and water?
No, well, just 6 in the morning until around about 6 in the evening. Okay. I started doing water now. I never used to do water. Now, but then I think now I'm aging, so I need to do water. So I never used to do water, but just the day. And I'd actually watch myself tick off my prayer lists throughout the year. And the year actually,
from that one day you gave?
Every Thursday of the year. The year I got pregnant with my son, Seth, that's my eldest. I got sick and I'm trying to what's going on. I went, discovered I was pregnant, and then the Thursday comes and I'm like, today's Thursday, I need to fast, and I'm like, but I can't fast because I'm not pregnant, and I'm not. And then my spirit says to me, but what you need to fast for? And I went back to my prayer list. I discovered I was pregnant with Seth around September. At that point, every single prayer point had been. So there was really no need to fast.
That's grace. That's grace.
Yeah. So right now I'm waking up. I'm back to my 1 a.m. prayers, and I love them. They've been tough. It's been tough going back there, but it used to be a routine. I just used to do it. Even my sisters, my youngsters who used to stay with me, knew that going to visit me was not fun. I'd wake you up and say, look, it's 1 a.m., so we pray. So, yeah, and then I do Sundays. I go to church on Sundays. I go to church in the morning on Sundays. There's a church service that there's this one Nigerian preacher a preacher called Joshua Salman. I don't know if you've heard him. He's phenomenal. I started listening to him in 2021, and he does his service on Sunday evening, and I make sure. So I go to my church in the morning.
You have 2 services a day?
Yeah, on the Sunday. So, yeah.
So we've run out of time. If only we had more time. And I want you to talk to the audience out there through that camera that you're looking into with your bright, shining eyes, and just give them a closing message from your heart. What would you want to say?
Okay. I'd just like to say that life is a process. I think faith is very, very important, especially if you want to leave a mark. There's faith for me has really, really defined who I am, the possibilities for me, and where I fail to see light. I go back and I look for what the scripture says about me, and what the scripture says about such a situation. But life is beautiful if you get to find your purpose.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nyu. Life is beautiful when you find your purpose.
Yeah.
We've heard it tonight from this special lady of faith and courage and obedience. Thank you for watching tonight.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.